Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Friday, November 1st. If you were just tuning in, we just went over the Thursday night football game that saw the Jets win 21-13, snapping a 5-game losing streak, as much of a must-win game as there really has been all season for any team. See if that will put them back on track. In this segment, we turn our attention to the rest of the NFL. We have our Week 9 game picks coming up in just 1 second, but before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday, November 1st. But like I was saying, in this segment, we get into our NFL game picks. Week 9 is upon us. The halfway point of the NFL is here, and it has been a crazy half of football. Lots of surprises, no bigger than maybe Washington, the Washington Commanders at 6-2 early on in this young season. They're favored by 4 points, traveling to New York to take on the Giants in the Meadowlands. This is a game that I think could get a little bit of a trap game kind of situation. Daniel Jones has been very good versus the Commanders in his career. He hasn't been swept by the Commanders yet in his career. I don't know if that trend really... I don't know how great that trend is when we're looking at this season. The Commanders are playing on a whole nother level. Jayden Daniels still dealing with a little bit of that rib issue. They're favored by 4 in this one on the road. As they head up to New York with the turn of the tide in November, they are still at the top of the NFC East. And this is a much different Commanders, Redskins, Washington football team organization than it has been in almost since the turn of the century, it seems. This team has the momentum, it has the support, it has the talent, and I think they're going to be able to sweep the Giants in this one. I think they win pretty easily on the road, 30-20. A lot of that does depend on Brian Robinson's health, though. He's questionable. I think him going over 100 yards against the Giants in Week 2 when they played in Washington was a huge part of it. That's going to be something to look out for, though. Up next, another division game as the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa travel to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Bills favored by 6 in this one, and the Bills have dominated Miami just about every single time they've played over the last 5 years. It looked no different in Week 2 when they played each other. Tua was healthy for the beginning of that game, got hurt trying to make a desperate comeback in the second half. It didn't look like it was going to happen, though, and I really don't feel like this is a Dolphins team that is going to be able to take down this Bills team with the way they're playing. The Bills have only really gotten better since Week 2, while the Dolphins at best have been stagnant. They've looked awful without Tua, and just the second week back with Tua, I'm a little bit concerned about how that offense is going to mesh against a Bills defense that seemingly has had their number. I think Buffalo wins pretty easily again in this one, 33-24. Up next, our first non-divisional game of the week as the Denver Broncos, a resurgent Denver Broncos team, travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens coming off of a brutal loss against the Cleveland Browns and Jameis Winston. Denver has been going on a little bit of a win streak here. Winners of 2 straight, 3 of 4, and 5 of their last 6. This is a team whose only loss since Week 2 came in a divisional matchup at home against the Chargers. This is a team that is on a roll, maybe one of the hotter teams in all of football right now. They are traveling to Baltimore, a cross-country flight, never easy on any team, especially a young one. Bo Nix has been playing really good football, just won October Rookie of the Month over some guys like Jayden Daniels, like Caleb Williams, who have played some really, really good football in that stretch. questionable whether or not he deserved it, but he's been the most consistent guy over that stretch, so I'm not super mad about it. This game should be a lot of fun. The question is, can Baltimore's defense step up? They have had the worst pass defense in the league, going up against a Broncos team that has just not made a lot of mistakes. This is a Ravens team that, with Lamar Jackson now missing 2 practices already this week, reports are that he practiced today, but still a little bit of a concern for the Baltimore Ravens. You don't want your star MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson missing much time. That doesn't really have a good look or a good history for the Ravens. He is amazing, and I think they're going to find a way to win this game after a letdown in Cleveland. But this is not just going to be some pushover game. It's a very good defense they'll be facing in Denver, and they need to be ready, because if they come out a little underprepared, like I feel like they did in Cleveland, they'll find a way to lose that one as well. I'm still riding with the Ravens. The Ravens win this one 35-23. Then an interesting one. We just finished talking about Cleveland. They host the Los Angeles Chargers this week, coming off of a huge win. Jameis Winston's first start of the season was successful in a way that you don't really expect. The Ravens dropped a couple interceptions, and they were able to win. But the biggest part of that is that they were able to overcome some of those mistakes, those near fatal errors that Jameis Winston is just prone to making sometimes. Jameis Winston is going to put you in positions to win. He's also going to put you in positions to lose. This is a very opportunistic defense in the Los Angeles Chargers. It's not a defense that I think truly deserves that ranking as the number 1 scoring defense right now. They've yet to really play anybody, but the Browns aren't really that super tough challenge. The Browns don't have a real receiving threat after trading away Amari Cooper. Nick Chubb is still getting his legs under him. I think he's going to need to have a big game for the Browns in this one, but they're going to be able to rely on the run game a little bit. This is a Chargers team that, in a perfect world, will play 3 yards in a cloud of dust football. Justin Herbert is one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL, and yet he hasn't had to do all of what he's had to do in the past. There are some games where they've thrown him out there and said, "Hey, go do your Justin Herbert magic," and it hasn't always worked out. But this is a game that I think is really a toss-up. In this one, the Chargers are favored by 1.5 on the road. I think Cleveland protects the dog pound in this one at home, and they find a way to come out with a tight victory, 24-20. Then an ugly one, another divisional game, as the New Orleans Saints travel to Carolina to take on Bryce Young and the Panthers. We saw this matchup already early on in the season, week 1 or 2, when they faced off against each other during the Saints' really hot streak, week 1 of this season. Same quarterback in. Derek Carr will be back for this one. They don't have quite the same weapons the Saints do. Defensively, they're missing a couple of pieces, so I don't think it's going to be that blowout that we saw it was in week 1. But I still think this Saints team is leagues better than the Carolina Panthers. Regardless of not having Rashid Shaheed, this is still a team that, is just frankly better than the Carolina Panthers are. The Panthers, I think, will give a little bit more of a fight, but I still don't think it's going to matter. New Orleans favored by 7 on the road, and I think they double them up, 26-13. Las Vegas travels to Cincinnati, and the Bengals favorite 7 season. Honestly, of a team like the the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have a very, very strong offense, of course, and the defense is starting to play a little bit better, but it still isn't all the way there. We saw them get absolutely thwacked by the Eagles last week. This is a game where, once again, they're not going to have T. Higgins, but against a defense like the Raiders, I don't think that will matter. What really is going to matter is that Max Crosby matchup. This is going to be a lot closer of a game than I think a lot of people think, and once again, the Bengals still have yet to win a game at home this season, and I think that's a big thing to consider. This is a must-win game at home for them. It kind of feels like that, as they've had a very, very slow start to the year. I think the Bengals find a way to win this one way closer than a lot of people think, 31-27. After the Bengals game, we travel to Atlanta. They host the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys coming off, in my opinion, their best game of the season, especially in that fourth quarter. If they can ride that momentum, if they can continue that train that they have gotten going a little bit off of that bye week against a good San Francisco 49ers team, if that defense can play like they did late in that game, getting key stops, now there's still a lot of work to do. It doesn't sound like they're getting Micah Parsons back, which is a big blow, and the Atlanta Falcons have been playing really good football down the stretch here. The Falcons favored by 3.5 in this one. I still think this one is going to be a lot closer for comfort, too close for comfort for a lot of Atlanta fans, but this one should be one that they find a way to win. I'm going with Atlanta to win this one 31-28. Maybe the ugliest game of the season. We already had one ugly game in New England when the New England Patriots took on the Miami Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa. Now we get the New England Patriots traveling to Tennessee, taking on a team in the Titans that have arguably been worse than the Miami Dolphins. Now they were able to take down those Miami Dolphins earlier in the season, but this is one where as we take a look at these two matchups, we're not sure what the status of both starting quarterbacks are. Mason Rudolph seems to be the guy over there as Will Levis continues to improve from his injury. We don't know whether Jacoby Brissett or Drake May will start. Again, that depends on Drake May's passing the concussion protocol there. Not sure how far along he is on that one. That's going to be a big factor. I think if Drake May plays, they win this game. But that Tennessee defense is very solid. It's a very good defense, and it's something to keep in mind as we go into the analysis of this game. Tennessee favored by 3.5 at home. I'm going to take them in this one in a low-scoring affair. Tennessee wins 14-10. Maybe potentially game of the week up next as the Chicago Bears travel to Arizona to take on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. The Chicago Bears need a get-right game like nobody's business right now, losing in heartbreaking fashion to the Washington Commanders, of course, on the Hail Mary. Lots of things to break down on that one. We talked a lot about it over this week, over the course of everything going on. You still have to consider all of that when you talk about this Bears team. A Bears team that has had its success against some weaker teams. This is a Cardinals team that's coming off of two very close victories against the Dolphins and the Chargers. They've won 2 straight games on walk-off field goals. Chad Ryland has had a really good season in replacement of Matt Prater, who went down with an injury earlier on in the year. This is a Cardinals team that is playing with a lot of heart, a lot of energy right now, and it's going to be a tough one in Chicago. This is a game that I think really means a lot for this Bears team, especially after that heartbreaking loss in Washington. I feel like they're going to come out with a fury, and that's it. That is a defense in Arizona's that I think they can take advantage of. I still think this is going to be a very close game, and Arizona -2 does show that this is a game that people expect to be close, but I'm going to lead on the side of Caleb Williams in this one, the slightly more consistent offense in the Bears, and I'm going to pick them and their defense to take care of Arizona 27-24. The Jacksonville Jaguars travel all the way up the East Coast to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles just had maybe their best game of the season. Ever since the bye week, Jalen Hurts has not turned the ball over, and that has been the key when we're looking at how successful these teams are going to be. They're favored by 7.5 in this one. That is a lot of points against the Jaguars team that over the last couple weeks has started to find their footing. Now, they did just lose to Malik Willis in Green Bay. They still made it a game at the end. They can't come off a one-on-one campaign in London, then they play a close game. They win a game against the Colts back in Jacksonville. This is a team that is starting to maybe find its stride. Trevor Lawrence is playing it his best football of the season down the stretch here. I still don't know if it's going to be enough for a win against the Eagles, as they should gash them on the ground and through the air with their just immensely more talented roster. But I do think the Jaguars put up a little bit of a fight here. They lose 27-20. Another candidate for game of the week up next, as the Green Bay Packers host the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff took an off day. He's in MVP considerations. Jordan Love, questionable. Not sure if he's going to play or how effective he's going to be when he does play. Malik Willis has been very good in spot starts without Jordan Love, and the Packers just continue to win games. I think the Packers have a better defense than the Lions do, but I think the Lions, coming off of a big win where their special teams really played a big role, Jared Goff had kind of a down day. I think this is a Lions offense that is better than that Packers offense, maybe one of the most explosive offenses in the league right now. I think they're going to be able to get out of this one in a very, very close win. They're favored by 3 on the road here. It's a divisional game, so we don't know what's going to happen. The last time they played a divisional game, they were able to escape with a win over the Vikings on a last-second field goal. I think this is going to be a very similar kind of game, maybe not last-second field goal, but coming down to the wire, I think they win 34-30. Then the Rams, a resurgence healthy Rams, take on the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. They travel over there after getting a huge win over the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday Night Football. They're getting healthier. That is the key for them. Matthew Stafford throws 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception, a really bad interception, but just 1 interception nonetheless. They're able to escape with a 10-point lead over the Minnesota Vikings last Thursday. They get a little bit of a pseudo bye week, getting a couple extra days to prepare, get healthy. I think the Rams are going to be able to take care of a very weak Seattle defense, win 33-24 in a game where they're only favored by 1. Then the Sunday night game. This one got flexed in earlier on this season as the new starter for the Indianapolis Colts, Joe Flacco, takes on the Minnesota Vikings, as the Vikings favored by 5 in this one. Joe Flacco has been playing very good football, and this is a Colts team that I think, as long as they play clean football, something they haven't really been able to do, hit the checkdowns, make the right plays, they should be able to stay in any game. The question is, how is Cam Robinson going to do in this offense? Is he going to be able to be a good stand-in for Christian Darrisaw just like that? I'm not entirely convinced. I think it might take another week, and this is a Vikings team that I think is really good, but 5 points is way too much, and I think Indy might be able to pull off an upset here, winning 27-26. And that takes us to the Monday game. I'll do a little bit of brief analysis for you here, but we'll do more in-depth analysis when it comes to Monday, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs favored by 8.5 in this one. Again, the Chiefs are really good. They find a way to win. That defense is elite, especially at stopping the run. Baker Mayfield doesn't have a lot of weapons. They're going to need another big day out of K-Dot, and McMillan needs to step up. They're going to need Trey Palmer to step up. The questionable, we don't know how healthy Sterling Shepard is going to be, but if he's out there, he's going to need to step up. They're going to need a lot from their guys. This is going to be a tough one. I'm taking Kansas City to win, though, 30-24. But let me know what you think of these games. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. We're going to take a quick break, though. When we come back, we turn our attention to the world of college football. Week 10, a massive matchup between Ohio State and Penn State, and a couple of other huge games this week. We break all of those down and much more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.